Welcome back to another reading and correcting of Stepping Up with me, Kindar the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. Here's things up again. Today we are doing Chapter 4. Everyone, grab a crate! Joseph's father called to the people assembled in the area set aside for a large group. Joseph's father called to the people assembled in the area set aside for a large group like theirs. Next. No. Joseph's father called to the people assembled in this area set aside for large groups like theirs next to the transport platform. Tibs hadn't known the work needed to move this many crates of foodstuff between cities. He'd thought merchants simply came and went to get what they needed, or had a messenger bring it to them. That worked when the merchant only needed a handful of small items. But anything large, as in everything needed for Joseph's family to run the inn in Craggle Rock, required an entirely different approach. Even if they could have done multiple trips, which they couldn't because of something Joseph called the benefits of bulk, some of those crates required 2 people to carry. Another complication had been the coordination with the other platforms. Unlike when it was 1 or 2 people traveling, or a small family, their group would occupy the entirety of the platform, making it impossible for someone to arrive while they stood on it. Or rather, one of Joseph's sisters said with a grin, he didn't want anyone arriving while they were on it, since it got really messy very fast. They also had to ensure that the platform in Craggle Rock was clear for their arrival, considering how long it had taken the group to simply exit the inn in Mountain Sea to go pick up the stored crates. This platform would be unable to function for a while. One of Joseph's brother tried to explain how the attendants could coordinate between platform, and the accent didn't help. So Tibs decided magic was enough of an explanation. How are you feeling? He asked Jackal. The fighter held 3 crates stacked and tied together, while Tibs only had a backpack. He'd asked for more, but even getting that had proved difficult. He'd asked more, but even getting the patch had proved difficult. Everyone told him he was too young to do the work. When he pointed to a girl around his age with crates, he was told she was family, so had to work. He wasn't. The behavior irritated him enough. He snapped that he was a runner and not some kid. This was too much like when he'd arrived in Craggle Rock and couldn't get any work, as every runner had been ordered to do as payment or having a place to sleep and food to eat. It had been amusing at first, but it had lasted. Before Tibs yelled again, Joseph handed him a heavy backpack, and he'd been mollified. I'm good, the father replied, in spite of his pale color. The fever passed the day before the message came, informing Joseph's father that town was ready for him to return if he was interested. But just this morning, he had trouble remaining standing for more than a few minutes. Right now, Tibs sensed how Jackal uses earth essence to anchor himself to the ground and stay up. For those of you who haven't been with us the last time we did this, his father called over the raising noises. Yeah, let's make it simple. If you feel yourself getting sick on arrival, hold it until you're down the stairs. They charge for the platform cleanup. And something else the guild uses to get money out of us, Jekyll grumbled. The guild doesn't run the platform, Tibs said. It was something you'd learn while speaking with the attendants when one of them was busy or like to converse. While like him, they had grown in power through the guild, dungeons, because they had void as their element. The people running the platforms paid off what the runner owed so they could work for them. No one could tell him the exact nature of the platform other than the method had been discovered a long time ago. Tibs was getting the sense that everything about essence and its use had been discovered a long time ago, and no one other than the sorcerers bothered trying to find out any more. I'm sure they managed to get a cut of even that, Jekyll replied, as the essence around them shifted. Tibs fought to steady Jekyll once. Once Craggle Rock materialized, doing his best to still his own protesting stomach. Other than his first time traveling via the platform, it had never affected him this way, and he wondered if how much was being moved affected how the essence behaved during the process. Jekyll pushed his essence into the ground and steadied himself. Without having to focus on the fighter, he sensed his own essence fell out and was disrupted and pushed it back into place. His stomach settled instantly. "Everyone off the platform!" Joseph's father yelled, "before we get charged extra." They just kept an eye out on Jackal as they moved the group. When he was healthy, the fighter had no problem shifting his essence as he walked, maintaining a proper connection, ensuring he didn't lose essence. Maintaining a proper connection and ensuring he didn't lose essence. But now he was leaving some behind with each step. Hopefully, his reserve had enough to make it to the inn, and he could rest. The procession stretched as they moved through the procession stretched as they moved through the narrower road and streets, and soon it was more of a long and thin line rather than a mass of people. Guards watched them in their green and black uniform, looking bored, but others appeared, looking excited. The reopening of the inn meant the town would be alive again. "Put it down here," Joseph instructed Jackal once they were before the building. "I'm fine," the fucker replied irritably. "I know, but this is where the crates go. We can't get everything inside at once. That's going to make sure everything's fine with the inn. Then we'll start moving them inside in the order they're needed." "Shouldn't we have done that before getting everyone here?" "More coins," Tip said. He couldn't come first and then send for us, Joseph answered. He had to book the time as soon as he found out. The platform here is only going to get busier as time passes and more merchants return. Not being in here when most of the runners return would kill the inn. Speaking of, do either of you know when the runners will be called back? Tibbs looked at his bracelet. The gem was still yellow. "It turns red when we have to come back." He placed the pack down. "I'm going to make sure we have a room. Make sure he rests," he told Joseph. "I'm fine," Jekyll snapped. The server smiled. "I'll make sure my man has no reason to want to do anything strenuous." He took He took the fighter's arm and placed it around his shoulder. "I can do strenuous stuff," Jekyll complained. "And you will," Joseph replied, his voice softening as he leaned closer. Tibbs hurried away. He was confident the strenuous stuff they'd get to would be kept to the inside of a room, but not completely so. Walking in on them doing them stuff once had been more than enough for Tibbs. He found the rooming house locked and considered unlocking it when no one answered his banging, but it had the same magical locks as the room in it had. Only the rooming houses had such locks. None of the shops. It gave Tibbs a sense of what the guild considered theirs. The rooming houses contained runners, while the shops only had goods and coins. He wondered if Daran had a pick that would open locks like these, so he headed to Merchant's Row. The building was deserted. It hadn't even been locked. The sign that hung over the door was also gone. He hadn't come by after finally being allowed out of the guild building because he hadn't needed anything from the shops at that point. He hoped Darren came back. He liked the crafty merchant. He stepped out of the building to a gray dog growling at him. It was stout but massive. He took a piece of jerky and crouched, offering it to the dog. The growling stopped, and it canted its head. "Go ahead," he was encouraging. "You must be new. You're too healthy to be one of the roaming dogs. Take it. You must love jerky. Thumb does. I do too." He broke a small piece and popped it into his mouth. The dog hesitated, looked around, then took a step forward. "No!" Sherbar yelled. "Sato, sit!" The dog whined a little, but sat, eyes never leaving the jerky. Hello, Serba. Tibs stood. Is that Rose new? She stepped around the shop's corner. How do you do that? I trained them to only obey me. Tib shrugs. Maybe you're too mean to them. Even dogs prefer someone who's nice. She snorted. You're a thief, not I'm a rogue, he corrected. She snorted again. One of those wouldn't have anything to do with my brother. He's a dirt. That makes you no better than he is. She studied her. If you're angry at Harry for keeping you here when the rest of us could leave, be angry at him, not Jackal or me. She glared at him. Kid, do not tell me what to do. He shrugged. Don't act like you need to be told. She let out a series of whistles and growling answered the alleys. He crossed his arm over his chest. I'm more strict than that. You won't scare me with your attack dogs. They're going to rip you apart, kid, she snarled. He smirked. Good luck explaining to Harry how you aren't behind my death. She was trying too much. She was trying much too hard. She looked baffled. How are you not scared that I'll have them kill you? I'm a dungeon runner, Serba. I know I'm going to die, but it's not going to be something in this town. You're too scared of Harry to risk it anyway. I'm not. She snapped her mouth shut. Tibs threw the jerky at the dog. Enjoy, Sato. I'll let her be mean to you. Thump can find me if you want more. If you want someone who'll be nice to you. He stepped around the guard. I swear, Tibs, she called after him. You're asking for one of them to bite your hand off. He coated his hand with earth and water and iced that. It looked brittle, and he sensed the way corruption was interfering even with that, but it would still be enough against the dog. He passed by Transport Road instead of turning onto it. Corruption's effect had reminded him he hadn't checked on it during any of his previous visits. He hadn't been interested in spending any more time in the too quiet town than to walk to visit Stowe and return to the platform. He nodded to the merchants who were moving into the shops. Some waved at him in recognition, while others, which Tibs had never seen, who Tibs had never seen before, either ignored him or watched warily. Successful merchants seemed to have a knack for spotting rogues. The stench began 4 buildings away from the pool, even with the breeze blowing in the opposite direction. No shop had settled in the buildings close to the pool. No shops had settled in the building. Even 7 away, they had emptied and never seen an occupant. You know what? I don't need that. Where the cavern garden used to stand, along with the shop on the left, was now only a pool of corruption. Essence concentrated until it was made solid, or liquid in this case. Tibs didn't know if it had happened on purpose or not, but the corruption Bardic had stored in the shop had been released and ate at everything and everyone in it. Tibs was also responsible for it. All those blue opals the adventurer rogue had Tibs drop and take from pockets had been messages about this and their plan to kill the dungeon. He suspected the box he'd picked up from Chuck in Mountain Sea had contained some, and while Tibs had delivered it to a tavern, it had found its way into the caravan garden. There had also been the black bottle a messenger had delivered there from the shop's keeper's daughter. He'd seen other such bottles changing hands before in the town, had even held one, which he'd been instructed to drop in the pocket of a man leaving the town. Bardic had known the girl here. Tibs was sure of that now. It was why he'd stood here the night after the corruption had been released. Tibs had thought the adventurer had simply been angry it had happened, but the man didn't care enough about others for that. This had interfered with his plan. That was why he'd been angry. A stone wall now kept everyone from getting too close to the pool. It replaced the spike and rope. The spikes and ropes. No, not spikes. Posts. The posts and ropes. It went to his chest, but the stench more than it kept people away. On the other side, the pool of not quite black, not quite purple liquids still sat there, same as it had the last time he'd looked at it, before some of it was used against Stowe. Did it mean the clerics hadn't been able to do anything to it, or that they hadn't even tried? He sort of remembered someone telling him they would be called in, but couldn't recall who. Only the only cleric he had seen try was that strange girl. Could anything be done about it anymore, or was this part of the town condemned to always be abandoned? He hated this plight in this town, the reminder he'd been used for the dungeon, the people who lived here. He headed back. He would make it up to the town for his party. Tibs! Kirina called as she wrapped her arm around him. How are you? Did you grow? No, he replied indignantly. She looked at the sleeve of his shirt. Did you buy a shirt? Buy a short shirt then? She asked suspiciously. He pulled on the sleeve, but it didn't help. He hadn't realized he put on one of his old shirts from when he had to be happy with what he found, or in this case took, from a dead runner. He didn't care how well or not his clothing fit him, but her attention made him self-conscious. She hugged him again. I missed you. I missed you too. What about me? Jekyll asked her, punching down. She looked at him, then leaned close to Tibs. Who's the strange guy? She whispered loudly. He's Krosev's special guy, Tibs replied, and had to keep from smiling at the fighter's high roll. She brightened. Oh, he found someone! I am so happy for him. She paused. He didn't settle for this one, right? Tibs shook his head. No, he had a lot of options, but somehow this one won. He lowered his voice. I think he beat up all the others. So you didn't think you could win a man honestly? She demanded of the fighter. Jekyll sighed. Will it help if I tell you I was hurt bad? What happened? She asked, all pretense gone. He fought in the arena, Tibs answered, while Jekyll was looking for a more flattering way to say it. He pissed off another fighter, bigger and stronger and better at fighting. I didn't mean to piss him off, Jekyll replied in exasperation. He commented on Crow's amazing look. I agreed and added I was really lucky he was my guy, and somehow that pissed him off. He paused and considered something. I'm pretty sure I didn't put any insults in there in the process. The guy would have killed Jekyll if the guards hadn't stopped the fight. He was hurt real bad. Kirina sighed. Sounds like he wanted to remove you so he could get to Jekyll. Yeah, wait. Are you saying I actually didn't cause this? Jekyll asked, surprised. Are you lying to us? Are you lying to us right now about, let's go here. About what you told him? No. Then, as unbelievable as it sounds, no, you didn't cause this. Jekyll beamed. Kirina, Krosev greeted her, placing a tankard on the table and then hugging her. How's my favorite sorceress? You look good. Tibs looked at Kirina again, and Krosev was white. Her dark skin had a glow to it. Got to be home. Jekyll stared at her, tinkered to his lip. Did you just call this place home? He asked in disbelief. It is home, Tibs stated, glaring at the fighter. For you and me, sure, he replied, but she has a home. He looked at her concerned. Right? She took a long drag of her tankard. I do. Here. Kirina, you're not straight, Jekyll said. That means you have people out there who... You have family, Jekyll, she replied. A sister and an uncle, both in this very town. Wouldn't that mean you're not straight either? Who else is out there worried about you? She asked, her tone turning frosty. You have seen how Serbo acts towards me, right? The fighter asked. Yeah, I replied. No, because she already did that. That Knuckles hates me. Trust me, there's no one out there worried about what might happen to me. He'd hate you less if you stopped calling him that, Tibs said, then turned to Kirina. Why are you back? The gem's still yellow. I was visiting Morishita when the messenger came to inform her the town was ready for merchants who wanted to return. She's the one who sells pigment for art. She explained she also sells books. She considered something and took a book from a satchel. She opened it and placed it before Tibs. The page was blank. She added an ink pot and a pen next. Okay, there we go. That quill. And quill next to it before Tibs could. Ask? Next to it before Tibs could ask. What she is doing. Now, why don't you write the names of the places you visited? Oh, why don't you write the names, the places you visited, use for the months? Tibs stared at her in horror. No, Tibs, she replied, her tone going stern. You agreed that you would. Give me a slate, indicated the book. I'm not wasting paper on my letters. This isn't going to be wasted, Tibs. It's going to be a record of how you progress. It's not worth the gold you paid. I didn't pay for it. It was a gift. Shouldn't you use it for the thing whoever gave it to you meant it for? Chicola asked. She closed it and ran a hand over the leather cover. He said to use it to do something that made me happy. Checo raised an eyebrow. And you picked torturing Tibs? She shrugged. The only other thing I could think of was torturing you with it. But I didn't want to risk damaging it as I hit you over the head with it. Okay. Damaging as I used it to hit you over the head. Tibs smiled as he listened to them bicker. It was good to have his family back. And this concludes chapter 4. Please, if you enjoyed this, leave a like. If you want to know when the next one is going to be, subscribe, hit the bell, share with your friends. If you want to read ahead, well, yeah, you'll have to do that on my Patreon. But if you want to read the first book, it's on Royal Road, along with this book, and that's free. If you want to watch me write this, you can do that on Twitch. All the information for those are in the notes. Yeah, early this morning. And with that, I will wish you a good day.